Pinkie Pie darted about her room in hasty preparation for the party she had decided to throw exactly 1 minute ago. Several times she almost tripped over Gummy, who had situated himself in the middle of the room. Eventually, he decided to take to the top of Pinkie Pie's bed in an effort to avoid being trampled. As soon as he finished his climb, Pinkie rushed up to him, holding a plain cake. "Gummy, should I use chocolate or caramel?" He slowly blinked one eye, and then the other. "Use both? Darn, why didn't I think of that?" she said, and returned to her frantic work. Little did she know, the stare that followed her about the room was one of intense hatred. Celestia herself would not be able to fathom the darkness that lurked behind those wide irises. He didn't want this. He would have been completely happy to have been born a normal alligator with the large size and sharp teeth that so defined his species. Nothing but days full of ambush hunting and thrashing at the river's bottom. His brain filled to the brim with killer instinct and nothing else. Yet, from the second he was born, he was burned with the curse of thought. Even worse, he could not express it. He was a genius trapped in a moron's body. Then, the pink one found him. In the first few days of his existence, he had strayed from the riverbed, hoping to learn more about the strange world outside his egg. That was when the pink one came upon him, finding him adorable and cute and all those other words that made him sick. He must have bitten her 100 times that day, but all his assaults were simply taken as signs of affection. How he hated the pink one. Every time she came near him, he would leap upon her skull to crush it between his mighty jaws, but his attacks did nothing but incite laughter from the hyperactive blight. Not only that, but the pink one's steady diet of sugary sustenance supplied to him had stunted his growth, forever dooming him to a hatchling's form. His thought nearly drove him to get off of the bed and attack his owner, but he restrained himself. No, he had plans. The Syndicate was meeting to induct its newest member, and Gummy did not make a habit of being late. If he tried to chase his master down, Pinkie would mistake it for a game of hide-and-seek, and his tardiness would almost certainly be assured. So, he waited. Every so often, Pinkie would come up to him and ask some inane question about decorating or invitations and take his silence as sage advice. Sadly, she was always too far away from him to strike. Finally, Pinkie Pie walked right up to the bed with a horn in her mouth. Gummy struck his 4 tiny legs, sending him straight at Pinkie Pie's noggin, and in one swift move, he lashed himself onto her head. He adjusted his mount just so, waiting for the effect to take hold. Pinkie giggled, and the horn dropped to the floor. "Aw, I think somebody's hungry. How does a big fat mint sundae sound?" Her sentence was cut short as her hair became frizzled and pupils dilated. The sunny smile of the pink pony instantly evaporated, and her colorful coat became muted with just the slightest shade of gray. Success! He was worried for a second that his attempt had failed. That would only have meant more sweets to rot his soul with. Once, he had missed the correct part of her head by just an inch and was forced to bear the humiliation in front of his henchmen as Pinkie carved to him about the park with him still attached. The members of the Syndicate knew better than to mock him, but to a certain passing cardinal did not, and decided to spread the news to his friends. The local arts and crafts store never figured out where the shipment of red feathers had come from. Pinkie Gummy walked over to a section of the wall and pressed several sections of it, which lit up to the touch and beeped. After the sequence had been entered, the wall slid away to a spiral staircase that descended into the bowels of the planet. Those stairs were mostly for show. He preferred the fast way down. He commanded his vessel to leap down the shaft in the middle of the spiral, and Pinkie Pie obeyed unquestionably. Pinkie soon slammed into the bottom of the shaft, but the strange physical properties of the pony meant that she flattened out like a rubber ball, then immediately regained her composure with no damage dealt. In front of Pinkie Gummy was a large and serious-looking black double door, with a soft blue light shining through the cracks at the bottom. The Pinkie vessel pushed it open and walked inside. It was Gummy's masterpiece. It had taken months of straight work through the night with the use of Pinkie's body to get the base operational, but it was well worth the effort. The room was essentially a large cave with a massive map highlighted by a bluish light which took up the entire southern wall. The center was dominated by a round table with 5 seats and 2 perches, one of which was newly installed. In the middle of the table was the symbol of the Syndicate, an S, with the jaws of a predator in the background. Everyone was already present except Philomena, who was to be in at any moment. Pinkie Gummy took his large leather seat at the head of the table and placed Pinkie's hooves on top of it in his best effort to be commanding. He never started any meeting until everyone was present, and the rest of the Syndicate sat in nervous silence as they waited for the Phoenix to arrive. A few minutes passed until an orange glow appeared at the tube that the winged member of the organization used to gain access to the HQ. Philomena burst out in all her radiance. She looked down in confusion to see Gummy latch onto a very somber Pinkie Pie, who motioned for her to take her place on the remaining empty perch. She complied, and Pinkie Gummy looked over the assembly one last time before speaking. "We must first sort out our highest priority. Bookie, how are the Syndicate's finances?" Pinkie Pie's body asked. She spoke in a completely different voice, one possessing a much heavier tone and an evil accent of indiscernible origin. "Whoo!" the owl replied. Good. And Fence, have you offloaded all of our acquisitions?" Opal meowed. "Excellent," Pinkie Gummy said. The fused being turned attention to Philomena. "I'm pleased to see that you managed to find our abode." Philomena squawked and flapped her wings. Now, the traps were there as a final test, of course. You won't have to worry about them on return visits. Now that the formalities are out of the way, I would like to welcome Philomena, or should I say, the cleaner, as a part of the Syndicate. The other animals present congratulated Philomena in their own noises. The Phoenix tried to hide her blushing face behind the brilliant plumage of one of her wings. "And now that we're all here," Pinkie Gummy stated as he jumped back off the table and walked over to the huge map behind them, "I believe that I should reveal to you all that the Syndicate is going to be moving out of our traditional role." Opal arched an eyebrow and meowed. "No offense, the Syndicate's plan isn't just make a whole lot of money. I founded this organization with a much grander purpose." Pinkie Gummy reached below the desk and flipped a tiny switch. At once, the chair Pinkie Gummy sat in was sent upwards by a giant spring, and the mastermind twirled through the air a few times before sticking the landing right in front of the map. The whole cave then seemed to shake as the entire map revolved around, slowly replacing the picture of Equestria with one that showed the entire country carved up into smaller blocks. In the middle of every colored division, one of the members of the Syndicate had their portraits framed. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Operation Falskrieg," Pinkie Gummy announced in a booming voice. The controlled pony walked onto a small platform and pulled a lever on the side. It sent the puppeted pony dozens of meters into the air, and the center of the map fell into their shadow. No longer will we be known as simple pets. We will pull the land and clouds right out from under those four-legged, talking abominations that dare call themselves ponies. This is our land, and we are going to take it back. The other members of the Syndicate could only look on in awe. The Pinky Gummy leaned forward, and the controlled pony's twisted, diabolical face became partly illuminated by the soft map lights. Fellow animals, the war begins now, and here's how we're going to do it. Several hours later, the secret entrance in Pinkie Pie's room opened, and Pinky Gummy stepped out in a triumphant fashion. When the coast was clear, the small alligator unhooked himself from his owner's head. Pinky blinked a few times as her pupils shrunk back to normal size, and her coat returned to its original state. When she was fully herself again, she saw Gummy looking up at her and grinned. "Gummy, let's get you that mint sundae.